to committee? Or is it because it's an amendment?
It's an amendment. It's already in there. It's not a new section.
Because that's mostly what new legislation is about, going through legislative committee.
That's what I was.
I was explaining that to someone the other day.
We've never had anything on this. This one, we do have something on.
Yeah.
It started in public hearing, so it started in session. That definitely started.
So if someone were to say, why isn't this going through legislative committee? Because it already exists.
Yes, it already exists. It's in public works. Public works puts that in.
Okay. All right, very good. Are we ready to go? All right, here we go. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday, September 13th City Council Business Agenda. Call to order, and I will ask Councilwoman Coonrod to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation if she so chooses.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilwoman. We have no special presentations this evening. I will hear a motion for our minutes. Without objection, the minutes will stand. Thank you very much. We have no ordinances on final reading this evening. We do have ordinances under planning. First reading, Madam Clerk, item A, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone part of a property located at 2600 Walker Road from R4 special zone to RM3 warehouse and wholesale zone.
Is the applicant present? Is there any opposition present? Council? This is in District 4.
Mr. Chair, this is in your district. Without opposition, I move approval.
Do we have a motion to approve? I do hear a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item A carries. Madam Clerk, item B, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone property located at 1413 Meadowlark Lane from R1 residential zone to R2 residential zone.
Is the applicant present? Is there any opposition present? Ma'am? Applicant or opposition? Okay, if you'll hang on just 1 second. We have no applicant present. We do have opposition present. Councilman Henderson?
Mr. Chair, this also is in your district, and I noticed that it is recommended for denial by Planning Commission, and I do see some opposition here tonight. Unless you would like to hear the case, I move for denial.
I do hear a motion for denial with a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor of denial say aye.
Aye.
Opposed to denial? Motion is denied. Thank you, ma'am. Item C, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone properties located at 8147, 8149, and 8153 East Brainerd Road, together with 1101 and 1113 Kinsey Drive from R1 residential zone and C2 convenience commercial zone to RT1 residential townhouse zone.
Is the applicant present? Is there any opposition present? Council will entertain a motion. Councilman Smith.
Thank you, sir. This is another item in your district, and without opposition, I move approval.
I have a motion to approve. I do hear a second to that motion. Questions or comments before we vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item carries. Madam Clerk, item D, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone property located at 1511 Mulberry Street from R2 residential zone to UGC urban general commercial zone, subject to certain conditions.
Is the applicant present? I do see an applicant. Is there any opposition present? Councilwoman Knoll, if you'll hit your light. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually went out to look at the property myself, and I spoke with Karen in reference to it. So there's some confusion as to being two different property owners for 1509 and 1511, and it's all gated in together. So I make a motion to defer for 1 week to September the 20th until that can be sorted out.
There's a motion for a 1-week deferral to September 20th. I do hear a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item is deferred 1 week.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item E, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone properties located at 1018 and 1020 East Martin Luther King Boulevard from URM3 Residential Multi-Unit Zone to UCX3 Commercial Mixed-Use Zone.
Is the applicant present? Is there any opposition present? Councilwoman Knoll?
I move to approve.
Do have a motion to approve. I do hear a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item carries. Madam Clerk, item F, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone an unaddressed property located in the 1000 block of East 10th Street from URD2 Residential Detached Zone to URM3 Residential Multi-Unit Zone.
Is the applicant present? Is there any opposition present? Councilwoman Knoll?
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. There is opposition for this. They're not here tonight, but I did once again go out and look at this property, spoke with a couple of constituents. So I'm going to ask that this be deferred for 2 weeks until September the 27th.
And that's in the form of a motion.
Motion, yes.
I do hear a motion to defer for 2 weeks till September 27th with a second to the motion. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item is deferred till September 27th.
Thank you,
Madam
Mr.
Clerk?
Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Item G, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone property located at 1002 East 16th Street from R3 Residential Zone to UGC Urban General Commercial Zone, subject to certain conditions.
Is the applicant present? I do see an applicant. Is there any opposition present? Councilwoman Knoll?
Move to approve.
Have a motion to approve. I do hear several seconds. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item G carries. Madam Clerk, item H, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone property located at 2514 East 17th Street from R2 Residential Zone to C3 Central Business Zone, subject to certain conditions.
Is the applicant present? I do see an applicant. Is there any opposition present? Councilwoman Coonrod?
Move to approve.
Have a motion to approve. Do hear a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item H carries. Under Resolutions, Community Development, Madam Clerk, item A, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Community Development to apply for and if awarded accept a Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, Continuum of Care Special Notice of Funding Opportunity to address unsheltered and rural homelessness through the City of Chattanooga Program Grant for transitional housing, rapid rehousing, and supportive services for medically vulnerable unsheltered individuals and families for an amount not to exceed $2,642,954.
Madam Vice Chair.
Move to approve.
Have a motion to approve. I do hear a second to that motion. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item A carries. Economic Development, item B, Madam Clerk.
A resolution amending Resolution 28672 to designate an Administrator of Economic Development or their designee as alternate certifying officer for documents relative to the environmental review process as required by federal regulations.
Have a motion to approve.
Second.
Do hear a second to that motion. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item B carries. Under Finance, Madam Clerk, item C, please.
A resolution to accept the current year financial report from the Chattanooga Business Improvement District, CBID, and approve the proposed budget for fiscal year 2023 activities, including authorizing the treasurer to collect a special assessment fee for tax year 2022.
Dr. Burrs. Have a motion to approve. Do hear several seconds. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item carries. Under Fire, Madam Clerk, will you take items D and E as a package without objection from council?
A resolution authorizing the chief of the fire department to exercise the first renewal for lease between the city of Chattanooga and Coal Creek Ventures for the tower site located on Windrock Mountain in Anderson County for years 4 through 6 pursuant to contracted monthly rental amount of $1,700 for a total expenditure amount of $61,200. A resolution authorizing the chief of the fire department to exercise the first renewal for lease between City of Chattanooga and Coal Creek Ventures for the tower site located on Cross Mountain in Campbell County for years 4 through 6 pursuant to the contracted monthly rent amount of $1,700 for a total expenditure amount of $61,200.
Councilman Henderson.
Move approval of items 7D and 7E.
Thank you, sir. I do have a motion to approve both items D and E. I do hear a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Items D and E carry. Under Mayor's Office, we have 2 appointments to the Carter Street Corporation without objection from council. Would you please read items F and
Confirming the appointment of Malcolm Harris to the Carter Street Corporation Board with a term beginning September 14th, 2022 and ending September 13th, 2026. A resolution confirming the appointment of Chris Crimmins to the Carter Street Corporation Board with a term beginning September 14th, 2022 and ending September 13th, 2026.
Dr. Burrs? Have a motion to approve. Do hear a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Items F and G carry. Thank you. Parks and Outdoors, without a council, would you please read items H and I as a package, please?
A resolution authorizing the waiver of park rental fees for Chattanooga Presents in support of Three Sisters Bluegrass Festival held in Chattanooga and Ross's Landing for the dates of September 29th, 30th, and October 1st, 2022, in the amount of $8,500, which includes $4,000 in deposits and $4,500 in rental fees. A resolution authorizing the waiver of rental fees for Tennessee Valley Pride in support of Pride Festival held in Chattanooga Green and Ross's Landing for the dates of October 2nd and 3rd, 2022, in the amount of $2,500, which includes $2,000 in deposits and $2,500 in rental fees.
Councilman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We did discuss this earlier today during our agenda session. And if the council will indulge me, I'd like to defer both of these items till 9:20 so that we can have a discussion as to whether our policy moving forward is going to include waiving deposits. And that is in the form of a motion, sir.
I do have a motion to defer these 2 items, H and I, for 1 week to September 20th. I do hear a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Items H and I are deferred 1 week. Under Public Works, Madam Clerk, Transportation, item J, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to enter into an agreement with Volker, Inc. to complete preliminary engineering for the environmental design and right-of-way phases of contract number T2100501, Amnicola Highway and Riverfront Parkway Resurfacing Project, TDOT PIN 131141, in the amount of $337,300 with a contingency amount of $33,730 for a total contract amount of $371,030.
Councilman Hester. Have a motion to approve. Do hear a second to that motion. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item J carries. Purchases this evening. Mr. Goldberg. I believe we have 3 purchases that were presented to council earlier this week. We've had an ample opportunity to ask questions, including today again at 3:30.
Yes, sir. We have 3 purchases recommended for approval. The first is from the Treasury Division. This is a request to increase the contract for printing, folding, stuffing, mailing, and postage for tax bills, summons, and past due notices. The original amount approved by council on August 9th, 2022 was $55,000 and did not include postage. The new annual amount, including postage, is not to exceed $125,000. The second item from finance is a new blanket contract for child forensic interview and child protective investigation team services. This is a sole source procurement. The vendor is Children's Advocacy Center. This will be a 4-year contract with an annual amount not to exceed $68,000. These services were previously provided through budget appropriation. And the last item is from the Fleet Management Division of Public Works. This is a request for a 12-month extension of the contract for police interceptors and special service vehicles. This will give the new fleet director time to evaluate options for bidding and/or use of cooperative agreements. The extension includes a 4% price increase with the annual amount not to exceed $1 million.
Thank you, Mr. Goldberg. Dr. Burrs, have a motion to approve?
Second.
Do hear a second to that motion. Questions, comments for purchases this evening? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Goldberg. We have no RFPs and no emergency purchases this evening.
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll now move into committee reports. And Councilwoman Coonrod? No report. Councilwoman Knoll?
No report.
Dr. Burrs?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Today, we had a presentation. Yeah? Okay. Today, we had a presentation on a budget amendment, which will be up for first reading on 9/27, second reading on 10/4. Because it's a budget amendment, we have to hold a public hearing, and that will be next week, 9/20. And Mr. Chair, I suggest that we need to schedule no more than 30 minutes. And it's 2 minutes each is what we've done in the past for amendments. Now, for the public, everything we talked about today is online. The public notice has already been published. And so you can see everything we learned today so that you can have educated input next week. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Burrs. While we're on that, without any objection from council, the rules for next week's public hearing will be set for 30 minutes with 2 minutes for each individual speaker. Councilman Henderson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The short-term vacation rental ad hoc committee did meet today, and we covered some housing data provided by Mr. Chris Acuff, and we determined that our next meeting would be October the 11th at 2 p.m. in our council conference room, and we hope to present a draft ordinance amendment at that time.
Very good. October 11th. Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Hill?
Nothing to report.
Councilman Smith?
No report, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Hester?
No report.
Madam Vice Chair?
No report.
That concludes our committee reports. We now also end our ordinances and resolutions for this evening. We now move into the recognitions of persons wishing to address council. Is there anyone wishing to address council this evening? If so, please make your way to the podium, and you'll have 3 minutes. And while you're coming, sir, I'll have the city attorney read our rules for public speaking.
At the end of every council meeting, the chair will recognize members of the public that wish to address the council. Here's your rules. Each speaker wishing to address the council can only be recognized up front at the microphone that's provided. No person can have more than 3 minutes to speak. The speaker can address the council only upon matters within their legislative and quasi-judicial authority, and not upon the matters that are not under the authority of the council or regulated by other governmental bodies. You can't use any vulgar or obscene language. You can't use the floor to personally attack or personally denigrate others, and should address your comments to the council as a whole and not make comments towards individual council members, please. Anyone can do this one time only today at a council meeting, and the chair will not permit any disorderly conduct or disrupting public meeting, which is prohibited under Tennessee law, and you commit that offense if you substantially obstruct or interfere with the meeting by physical action or verbal utterance with the intent to prevent or disrupt a lawful meeting. Please go ahead, sir, after those rules.
All right. I often find myself at a loss for words. It's not because of anger or astonishment, but
Sir,
rather,
can I stop you? Can you give us your name, please, and your district?
my name is Grantham. I go to UTC. I'm not sure which district.
That's in District 8.
District 8.
Thank you, sir.
No problem. I often find myself at a loss for words, not from anger or astonishment, but confusion. When I look at Chattanooga and I see homeless being kicked out of their tents or their temporary homes, that's confusing to me. It makes me feel that our government has prioritized aesthetics over care of people. That's confusing to me. There is a drive-by my next door neighbor. And I mean, I know that has nothing to do with y'all or the government as a whole. That was an individual, but that's confusing to me. it's easy to tell others that their problem is from personal accountability, but when a government is involved, a government's not an individual. So how do you address that? I don't know, because I'm confused. I fight with disbelief in our establishments, disbelief in our collective agreement on goals, disbelief in my own thoughts due to thin spread opinions, maybe something that I've been told went over me. I hope that that's all there is to it. Maybe I just don't understand, but there are people that are being affected, not directly by individuals, but by the establishment. And I just want to say that I hope that every night, like each one of you, go to sleep and want to make this place better for everybody. And that's all I got.
If you don't mind, Mr. Sam is right in the back there. And
Mhm.
if you've been fed any misinformation about what the city's efforts are, Sam will be able to give you the information and the efforts ongoing.
Yeah, no, I wasn't.
I'm not opening it for debate. I'm just telling you to look back and see Sam right there.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
thanks.
sir. Evening, John.
Hey everyone, John. I am in District 9, and today I want to talk about the difference between complicated and complex systems when it comes to city planning and development. They sound very similar, but they're different. Imagine throwing a seed into a cornfield, anything other than a kernel of corn. By design, that seed will not grow. The complicated process of a monoculture like corn keeps it from growing purposefully. But today, I want to talk about complicated, fragile systems juxtaposed with complex, adaptive systems. A monoculture like corn is a prime example of a complicated and fragile system. It's like a Swiss watch, lots of moving parts. If one of them breaks down, the whole system breaks down. It could be the government subsidies, the price controls, whatever it is, complicated systems are fragile. But if you contrast that with an adaptive, complex system, like, say, a coral reef, and you chip a piece of that coral reef off, something else will take its place. Exclusionary zoning laws are an example of a type of monoculture or complicated, fragile systems. They favor big, bold bets, and they are high risk. Instead, I would advocate for complex, adaptive systems, small, incremental, conservative, sustainable, and robust change. Soil that not only supports corn seeds, but juxtaposed to a monoculture, it's more like an ecosystem that supports acorns, pecans, apples, and blueberries. Exclusionary zoning laws punish those who lack the money and time to take advantage of the complex system designed for corn seeds. We've all but outlawed a way for the poor to earn a right from their labor or profit from the output of their labor using their property. As a result, we see the poor as a liability more than untapped potential. We could do well to look at the rest of the culprit for our housing shortages and business problems and see that it's not just one little problem, but it could be helped a lot by things like upzoning. You see, housing is a luxury item right now. It's expensive and it's only an expense. Vivian from Ridgedale could not sell paletas out of her garage without doing so illegally. She has neither the time nor the resources to go to zoning hearings because she is not corn. And the city is incentivized to shut her down. And how dare her be anything other than corn in this situation. So instead, let's exchange exclusionary zoning laws for upzoning. Let's move away from the exclusivity favoring complicated, fragile systems and move to more complex, adaptive systems. The weakness of a complex system is its homogeneity, and its weakness is change. The advantage of a complex, adaptive system is that it thrives in change and it thrives in diversity. The one weakness is that it takes time and trust in your community. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Good
Yes, ma'am.
evening,
Good evening.
Commissioners. My name is Betty Maddox Battle, and I live in District 5. And I stand before you today as an advocate for grieving mothers. Here lately, we've seen so many mass shootings. We've had over 470 mass shootings in the United States, totally unacceptable. I stand here today on behalf of all the grieving mothers all over the world. We're coming up on the first anniversary, whereas 7 Black females were shot. 2 of them were killed. We cannot forget. We will not forget. I am asking you to come out on September the 24th and support these families and let them know that you support them as much. You don't know what it is to lose a child. I know what it is. I've experienced both aspects of violence, and I've told this over and over again, the judicial aspect and the victim aspect. And you don't know until you have to walk in that person's shoes. None of us, no community is immune from gun violence. I stand here today and I submit to you. I ask you on behalf of all these grieving families all over the world to come out and support these families and let them know that they are not alone. We've got programs out here that can help. We've got to allocate this money in the right places, and we've got to hold people accountable. We got to hold our elected officials accountable for the things they do and the things you do not do. This is what I do. I'm hurt. I'm saddened about what's going on in the world, but we can make a difference. You all are blessed to sit there in those positions. And we ask you that you sympathize with us and help us bring solutions to the table and make this a better place. What affects one directly actually affects us all indirectly. I thank you for listening, and I thank you for your support. I have a press release, and with the permission to pass this on to someone,
Yes, ma'am, please, if you don't mind.
I appreciate it,
That'd be
and a flyer.
And we'll make sure and put that information on the council website as well.
Thank you for the opportunity to
Yes, ma'am.
speak.
I know I have 3 minutes. Okay. So good evening, City Councilman and members. My name is Audrey Ramsey, and I live in District 1. And however, I am humbled by the presence of being here tonight and to address all of you. And I want to thank you all for all that you do. And I have to admit, I agree wholeheartedly with Miss Betty Maddox, who is the founder of the Grieve organization. And as a community, we can't just sit back and continue to watch our children drop out as a result of violent crimes, suicide, and other mental health issues. I think I can all agree that it's going to take great teachers and community leaders, as well as parents. These entities are essential for the success of our children. An engaged community is involved in our schools, and that includes our community centers as well. And regardless of the zip code, the effective, efficient, and consistent operation of quality programs in the community centers ensure safety and healthy well-being. As the executive director of the Chattanooga Aquatic Project and Personal Development Nonprofit, a minority Black female-owned 501c3 corporation, the CAP board seeks to use the Brainerd Complex Community Recreation Center facilities, the pool, and a meeting room for the launching of its program in District 5 and in District 9. Saturday, October 15th, CAP will be hosting a water safety demonstration at the center. Because we are an upstart charitable nonprofit, we are asking that the rental fees be waived. The facility use application has been submitted, awaiting a response from you, Councilman Isaiah Hester. Please review the email submitted a few days ago. Your immediate response is greatly appreciated. I hope we can all come together and have the heart to invest in our children, invest in our teachers, and invest in our schools, as well as quality after-school programs that are coming through Parks and Outdoors and the community recreation centers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Audrey, can you tell us again the date and the time? Unless you have
October,
a sheet for us.
yes, October 15th,
October 15th.
yes, at the complex, the Brainerd Complex
Uh-huh.
Recreation Center from 11 until 1.
If you don't mind, can you reach out to our council office too, and we'll make sure that information's on our website?
I sure will.
Thank you, Mr.
And we
Ramsey.
do have a website, and it's www.chataquatics, CHATAQUATICS.org. Thanks.
Thank you. Hang on one second, Ms. Ramsey. Councilman Henderson.
Could you reach out? I'm glad you're here this afternoon. Could you reach out to me through email?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Anyone else wishing to address council this evening?
Good afternoon. My name is Edward Curtis of District 7.
Yes, sir.
I've got a problem with the Tennessee American Water Company that we don't have an administrative office here, some kind of office that the customers can go to for a complaint. I've got a complaint. Could I get this? Y'all pass the pictures around?
Yes, sir. You're welcome to pass it around, but
You know, and that's the problem. We don't have no kind of outreach but the phone. We need an office where we can go down and talk to these people. It's not the problem with water bill. I got a leak in my yard, you know, and it's not my meter, but it's the water standing in my yard and around my neighborhood. They came out and marked it a month ago. Nothing has been done. So is there any possible way that, do I need to go higher with this or what?
well, have you reached out to your council representative yet? That would be my first stop
Yes.
and see if,
I want to, I've done that. I've told, my council person about that. But do I need to go higher? Because evidently nothing is being done about the people. And I'm not the only one. We need an office in Chattanooga. If you're going to take our money, at least have an office here that we can go to talk
I
to people.
understand. Okay.
You people gave that up when, later on.
So
Go ahead.
what I'm what I'm hearing in my ears, Tennessee American is a private company.
That's right. But yet still, you people up here on the city council gave them permission to move our office out of here that we can go to and talk to these people about problems. We got to go on the phone. You might be there 24 hours. You might be there 6 hours, maybe 4 or 5 hours. But why should we do that when we pay them all this money?
Understood.
They could at least have an office here, but people that you can talk to personally. That's what I'm saying.
I understand.
See, okay, I appreciate it.
I work for an engineering firm and I have contacts.
Okay.
Well, I'm trying to figure out, are you looking for assistance in the water in your yard? Or are you looking for
what I'm looking
Tennessee
for is
American?
come out- it's a leak on the street.
Yeah.
They need to come out there and fix it. And when they
Okay.
gonna come out there? That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Okay. Because
I've
I'm
heard
hearing,
that we short of
Sure.
manpower because of COVID. Everybody's short of manpower because of COVID.
Yeah.
But stop bring that same lie up. Come on now.
Ms. Shepherd, I appreciate Ms. Shepherd standing up and helping with that situation because I was
Okay.
hearing two different requests. So Ms. Shepherd, if you would,
I'll get with her.
I appreciate her standing up. That's great. Thank you, sir.
That's all I need.
All right. Anybody else wishing to address council this evening? Council seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.